Today I'm reacting to your Friday Night Smackdown hot takes. And for this episode, you guys had a lot of things that you wanted to get off your chests. Hot Takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether those are good thoughts, bad thoughts, or everything in between about the world of professional wrestling. So if you'd like to be featured in the next episode of Hot Takes, make sure that you're following me on X because I ask for your hot takes there after every episode of Raw, Smackdown, and every single WWE Premium Live event. And if you are looking for our full review of this particular episode of Friday Night Smackdown with footage so that you can see exactly what it is that we're talking about, that's already up and available over on patreon.com/SatiZap, so check the description or check the link in the pinned comment. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. Hi BDE, hi Simon Miller, hi the Great One, hi Small Afro. All right, now let's get started. I'm glad to see that these titles are getting defended, but why couldn't at least one of them get put on the Night of Champions card? Also, why is Nia getting a third rematch? If anything, this serves as visual proof of WWE's lackluster booking of the women's mid-card and even the women's main event scene over on Friday Night Smackdown. Like, how do you have a champion Zelina Vega and give her literally 0 seconds of mic time in any of her feuds? She is literally amongst the elite mic workers in the WWE, and you don't give her a mic? It makes no sense to me. And the feud with Julia has been built off the back of like 3 backstage segment stare downs that last less than 10 seconds, 1 Julia in-ring beatdown of Zelina Vega, and that's it. They haven't even had so much as a conversation. That's just not good enough these days. Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax certainly had a much better case to get on the card considering they've been feuding for the better part of like half a year at this point, but even this feud just feels tiresome at this point. It's been start, stop, and this third edition of their championship match feels unnecessary and rushed all at the same time. I feel like this match purely exists just to solidify Tiffany Stratton's reign as a WWE Women's Champion so that there are no questions that she is at the top of the card and we can put Nia Jax behind her. So I will say, from a storyline perspective, WWE hasn't done a good enough job to warrant putting any of these matches on the Night of Champions card. But I also have to point out the hypocrisy of putting AJ Styles versus Dominic Mysterio, considering that has had arguably a worse build than any of these. So yeah, just make it make sense. I don't understand. This was the heel Cena that we've wanted, and it's a shame that they didn't pull the trigger 10 years ago. I said this last week that it finally felt like the Cena heel run was properly starting, that it was about to get good. And I feel like this week really solidified that because the majority of people wrote in with glowing reviews about the John Cena heel run, feeling like it's finally gotten good. But I have to agree with Paris. Had they done this 10 years ago, this could have been so much better because this was a Cena that would have been near his physical peak in terms of his prime, in terms of his wrestling, in terms of what he's able to do in the ring, while also being a full-timer, not having his time divided with Hollywood, being able to have feuds, storylines, matches with all kinds of different performers on a week-by-week basis. It could have been so much better. However, 10 years ago, WWE was just, let's face it, a coward. They didn't want to ruin their golden goose babyface John Cena because they just weren't sure that babyface Roman Reigns, the big dog, was going to be the guy that they were going to be able to build the babyface of the company around. But hey, at the very least, we got to say that we got it and it's getting good. What an incredible way to end the show. Made the feud going into Night of Champions way more personal and important. My God, I'm going to miss John Cena when he's gone. Similar to Victoria, so many people wrote in so positively about this promo. I didn't need this promo to get excited over the prospect of John Cena versus CM Punk, but I also was made into a lifelong wrestling fan because of the long-lasting feud that is CM Punk versus John Cena. So just the name power alone was good enough to engage me. But I understand that not everyone falls into that category, and I do believe that the promo, the beatdown, the interactions over the last couple of weeks have done such a great job at not just pulling on my nostalgia strings, but also getting new fans engaged and interested in this storyline. Right now, when it comes to CM Punk and John Cena, WWE is literally knocking it out of the park. While John Cena did cook in this promo, I felt that CM Punk still had the better pipe bomb. At first, Cena's promo felt forced, but then it turned authentic. I can't wait to see how CM Punk can clap back. Well, there's not much time to clap back because there's only one more episode of Friday Night Smackdown left. Maybe we'll get something out of CM Punk, but I don't really need anything to get excited for this now. But of course that the CM Punk pipe bomb was better. It was real. It was authentic. It was at least felt unscripted. It felt taboo. It felt like something that we weren't supposed to see. This was a parody of that. It was never meant to be better than the CM Punk pipe bomb. It's very rare that a parody can be better than the original. original. I feel like Weird Al Yankovic is one of those rare cases that he can make his parody better than the original. I'm telling you, Amish Paradise might actually be better than Gangster's Paradise. Zelina Vega's upcoming loss to Julia for the United States Championship feels like a misstep. Her title reign didn't quite hit the mark, and the booking didn't help her showcase her full potential. It's unfortunate, but I wish that they could have given her more. I think it's funny that you're already just assuming that she's going to lose the United States Championship, because I am too. I think at this point, I'm ready for a reset of the Women's United States Championship division with a Julia as champion, but the way that they've been booking Zelina Vega and Chelsea Green as champion doesn't particularly build confidence in a future Julia championship run either. So I don't know that Julia is going to be the savior of this division, but I will say the division does need a reset in some way, shape, or form. It does feel like a misstep, mostly because it just didn't feel like they gave Zelina Vega a chance. Like I've said before already in this video, she is an elite mic worker, and how do you not give an elite mic worker the mic to help herself get over, to get the championship over, to get her opponent over? It's just sort of been bland, not because of Zelina Vega's fault or Julia's fault, but because of WWE's fault. It is entirely a misstep. I agree with you. I actually think it's a misstep that I don't know that they can fix. That's why I'm ready for a reset in the division by giving the championship over to Julia. So what was the point of advertising Cody if he wasn't gonna say anything at all because we needed to, quote, play my music, Oos? Oh my God, dude, that was so frustrating. That was so frustrating. I don't know if they actually legitimately cut out Cody Rhodes' promo section because they decided to play it again. But dude, why? You lost your championship. You shouldn't be celebrating like this. I get it. You're the yeet dude. You're fun. But like, man, show a little bit of seriousness in this situation after you had your minor setback of losing the World Heavyweight Championship. I was fine with the play my music again when he was champion because it's a celebration when you are champion. But right now, I don't know, man. I don't think you deserve these play my music again oos. That is ridiculous that they advertised Cody Rhodes and he literally went out there to waste pyro. That's literally all they used them for. Get a bunch of expensive pyro and say absolutely nothing. But hey, at least we got to run it again. God damn it, I'm sounding like the angry, bitter old ass wrestling fan again. John Cena has finally found his groove as a heel. The last few months has felt like a warm-up where he was figuring out how to be a heel, and tonight is when it officially started. I have a feeling like the next 6 months will be the greatest of his whole career. Dude, it's kind of crazy how one promo can just shift the narrative. I'm telling you, every single week, like 30% of the messages that I would receive about any episode that John Cena was on was just about how disappointing the John Cena retirement tour has been, how bad of a heel he is, how he's ruined his legacy by turning heel. And here we are. Literally everyone is writing in positively about the Cena heel run now. And we called it a bit early. Last week when he was interrupted by Cody Rhodes, LA Knight, by Randy Orton, it felt real. It finally felt like a revolving cast of characters that should have already made their presence felt to stop John Cena from ruining wrestling. High Five finally stepped out of the darkness and are coming after John Cena, and this makes the John Cena heel turn universe finally feel real. I personally didn't mind the Cena heel run up until this point. I liked that the first portion of his heel run was basically John Cena versus the fans, but it was about time that we eventually moved on from John Cena versus the fans to John Cena versus the people in the WWE that are trying to save the WWE. And now, if we can focus on that moving forward, whether it's with CM Punk, with Cody Rhodes moving forward, maybe AJ Styles somewhere down the line, with whoever it is, we're bound to get treated to some great TV and promos. I get it, John. You broke up with me. You hate me. I'm a piece of trash. What do we get? What do we get? We can move on from that. Now we can just cut promos about your opponents. You can cut them down with a chainsaw that's called your words, and we're just gonna get a much better heel run from that. I don't know that I'm ready to say that the next 6 months could be the best 6 months of his career, but my goodness, if it's more stuff like this to this quality a level, you might be onto something. Easily the best segment from Cena's retirement tour so far. Every callback and reference was everything I could have wished for, but switching the roles, chef's kiss. Absolute masterclass by two of the GOATs. I've always said that Cena and CM Punk are like part of the holy trinity of in-ring mic workers. they are two of the very best that the industry has ever seen, and it's been great seeing them go back and forth over the last couple of weeks. I hope that in the go home episode, they both get to talk to one another and rip each other apart. What I want to talk about, and it's again, crying about spilled milk, I can't really do anything about it, is you're right. Everything about this was perfect. The callbacks, the reverse of roles. Again, I ask, why not Money in the Bank? Like, Money in the Bank was literally like the perfect venue for this. I have no problem with this happening in Saudi Arabia, by the way. I understand that Night of Champions has some emotional significance between the John Cena and CM Punk feud, but nowhere near to the level of Money in the Bank. With everything that they're doing, their reverse roles, their callback to 2011, they're literally doing the buildup of their Money in the Bank match and not paying it off at Money in the Bank. That doesn't make sense to me. This should have been a Money in the Bank. On everything I hold dear, please do not let this be a squash. Let Zelina look strong as well, and let this be a proper feud. Let Zelina retain in this match. This is finally something new. No more Chelsea and friends. This can be a genuinely great feud for the title, but Zelina has to win here. Everything you're saying is fair. This could be a genuinely good feud. They could have a great storyline, but it's clearly like clear as day that that's just not going to happen. WWE is not going to let it happen. So I'm at the point where we just got to cut the limb off, move on, and start new. I hope Julia wins. The women's title deserves so much better. I'm tired of Tiffy versus Nia every week. We got to do something. We got to find something new for Tiffany Stratton. It's crazy that Tiffany Stratton, one of your up-and-coming pillars of the WWE women's system, hasn't gotten a single premium show match since WrestleMania, barely defended the title, hasn't been able to find like new opponents to build new storylines with since WrestleMania. It's getting tiresome. This has to be the last time that we run Nia Jax versus Tiffany Stratton. For the love of God, let's move on from this. Inject this feud into my soul now. This can be one of the greatest feuds of all time with the storytelling and matches that they can put on, and I can't wait. P.S. I hope Cody is the one to turn heel for the feud if one of them has to turn. Does anyone disagree with what they're saying? Because everything that you're saying is right. On paper, this has every possibility to potentially be the best feud that WWE puts on in the 2020s. It's a storyline that will always work. Mentor versus student, but now the student is the top of the class. The student is at the top of the company, at the top of the mountain. The story will always write itself. But when you have two super important names to the industry like Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton, it adds just so much more to it as well. I don't know that anyone necessarily needs to turn heel, but I have to disagree with you. If somebody's going to turn heel, it's going to be Randy Orton. I feel like you should just be ready for that. I don't think that they're going to turn Cody Rhodes heel anytime soon. But the first match between them absolutely can be babyface versus babyface, and they can ramp this thing up. Look at the feud against Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes. That started off at Bash in Berlin with a friendly, who is the best man? Friendly babyface versus babyface match between two guys that like each other. And within 6 months, it was one of the biggest blood feuds that WWE had built in the 2020s. So they can do something similar like that with Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, but it would just hit so much harder because it's Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. 0 letters, 0 words, Cody speaking time this SmackDown. Okay, that was good stuff. That was good. I genuinely think that this is Cena's best promo. As much as it's a callback to Punk's pipe bomb, it narratively makes sense too. Punk has a plethora of lore that has never even been mentioned on WWE TV, and Cena has opened Pandora's box of CM Punk lore. I don't know how much more of the box they're going to unpack. I was wondering how deep into his AEW run and saga he was going to lean into. It ended up being pretty much none, aside from the mention of Claudio Castagnoli and the mention that nobody in the locker room has ever really liked them aside from John Cena. They have one more episode of Friday Night SmackDown that they might be able to dig deeper into one another, but I think at this point, I feel like they've done enough. I feel like we don't need to cross that line to really make this into a bigger forest fire than it already is. I think I am perfectly satisfied with the promos that they've had back and forth. Sure, one more good one, but do I need them to really like stab into each other's like history and lore that much? I think I'm good. I wish that they didn't use Truth as a stepping stone to build up Cena and Punk's feud. They like just pushed him off to the side, it felt like. Oh yeah, it definitely felt like he was pushed off to the side, like he was actually never supposed to be part of that storyline almost, which technically is true considering he shouldn't have been in the WWE had the We Want Truth movement not started. I do think though that it was a nice way to give us the moment that we ultimately ended up getting, because Truth was a part of the 2011 pipe bomb and he was also the catalyst to set up this 2025 parody edition of it with John Cena. So I do think that Ron Killings R-Truth played his role here, but it does feel like they're already ready to move on from John Cena R-Truth, considering they're already setting up something new for R-Truth. No Rey Fenix, no tag team champions, no Nakamura after he was randomly placed in an important match last week, no Julia but getting a champions match next week. How can you guys be okay with this? Hey, that's fair. And Tito, I'm actually going to amplify your voice by reminding everybody that it's only going to get worse, because SmackDown is going to 2 hours, so it's going to be even more difficult for any of these names that you mentioned, the tag team division, to find time to get on the show. Am I maybe spelling doom for some people? I mean, I think by default you kind of have to, because if you don't get TV time, we know what ultimately ends up happening. I wouldn't mind seeing Charlotte go after the US title down the road, similar to Becky going after the IC title. This could be another spark. Well, look at what we have here. People now want Charlotte to win things. It's funny how, like, if you take something away from Charlotte and make her work for it, it all of a sudden makes her a lot more interesting, right? Maybe the era of death taxes and Charlotte Flair winning championships that she doesn't deserve to win is over, and now she'll actually have to struggle and actually have to go through like wars to win things, and that makes her a lot more interesting and a lot more relatable as well. Hell yeah, dude. Charlotte as a United States champion would be good, but I hope that she earns it. I hope that she struggles to win it so that I can get behind that championship run, and so it doesn't just feel like another Charlotte Flair championship reign that just gets handed to her. I like what Charlotte is currently doing. It helps build her character outside of just, quote, you have a title and I want it. This is going to help depth for her character. Big time. I know that it's going to lead to championship gold. I can already smell it from a mile away that Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss are going to be our next women's tag team champions, but at least it feels like a storyline that's kind of worth it. Because you're right, so many of Charlotte's championship reigns have just been, hey, it's Charlotte, so she just gets to go after world titles. But if we're going to do a storyline where she has an unlikely tag partner, an unlikely ally, they hate each other and they become friends, that builds depth, that builds character. That is a Charlotte that maybe, dare I say, people might actually root for eventually. Cena's promo, although was fun, felt incredibly artificial, fake. I remembered the OG pipe bomb. It felt serious, menacing. Cena's version is just a lame homage. Yeah, it's an homage. Of course it's artificial. Of course it's fake. Everything about it is built off of something else. Everything about it is meant to be a reference, a wink, and a nod to something else. Of course it's fake. Of course it doesn't feel real. Of course it's not authentic. What did you expect? Cena wasn't trying to outdo CM Punk's pipe bomb. He was trying to basically mock it. That's what he was doing. No Carmelo Hayes, no Rey Fenix, no Julia, but you get more than 10 minutes of a Yeet entrance. WTF. By the way, a ton of people wrote in about this. A lot of people mad about Jey Uso taking up TV time of a show that he's not even a part of, which left, at least presumably, a bunch of people that are actually part of that show, Friday Night SmackDown, off of the card. Again, I'm not convinced that Cody was meant to have lines, but it is kind of funny to think about that the face of the company lost out on saying anything on Friday Night SmackDown, a SmackDown he was advertised for, simply because we needed to run it back. I'm worried for this match. Also feels like the Wyatts immediately getting a title shot is kind of forced. I agree. I don't know why they're getting a title shot. They beat the Motor City Machine Guns. That's good enough for a championship opportunity. Meanwhile, Fraxium were on the brink of maybe beating the Street Profits and their match got interrupted. Where's their rematch? Sometimes WWE doesn't make sense. Their logic to who they hand championship defenses to also make no sense. And I feel like this is one of those situations. And in my opinion, the Wyatt Six didn't impress in their last outing either. I would not be surprised if we get new tag team champions. It's very clear that this is a storyline that they're building towards, with the Wyatt Six coming for what they deserve, and what they deserve is brotherhood, championships, etc. I feel like it would suck to have them win at this point, this early, this unearned. And that's coming from somebody that's been a huge Wyatt Six defender, but this is just not the play here. I'm tired of seeing table spots every week, and yes, it's only because of the Slim Jing logo on the table. WWE needs to seriously chill out on the table spots for a week or two. They're not going to. I genuinely believe, and I don't have a contract in front of me, I genuinely believe that there is a contractual amount of table spots that they need to have per episode of Friday Night SmackDown. I said that we're going to get tired of table spots because we were going to see them every single week. At least in this moment, it made sense because it was a callback to the table spot that happened in 2011, but last week's table spot felt completely shoehorned in and put in purely for the advertisement, and we're going to get a hell of a lot more of that. I told you guys, this was going to be a slippery slope. If we start putting advertisers on weapons, on items, because those advertisers are gonna want those items and weapons being used on TV so that they can get their sponsorship money's worth. And this is one of those examples. Get ready for tables every single week. Naomi will cash in next week and win the WWE Undisputed Women's Championship. You know what? At this point, I'm kind of hoping that that's the case because I can already see it. Oh my God, they're doing it again. They're making the Money in the Bank briefcase holder do a bunch of failed cash-ins that make them look like a dumbass. If we can just have her cash in successfully as early as the next episode of Friday Night SmackDown on the last woman standing match and have her become champion, at the very least, we can get rid of this and not make Naomi look like an idiot for months and months and months and months and months like you did with Damian Priest and Tiffany Stratton. With LA Knight holding his own against Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, you could see that WWE has major plans for him in the near future after this feud with Seth. Well, I would say that his major plans are his feud with Seth. If anything, I'm actually a little bit concerned for LA Knight, and maybe I'm overthinking it because I think that he will eventually be able to surpass the Bronze and get a match with Seth Rollins, but I think he's just going to lose to Seth Rollins. And then what happens after that? I don't see LA Knight coming out on top of a Seth Rollins feud, do you? So let's be realistic about it. Once he loses to Seth Rollins, what's the play? Is it going after Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship? That would require him moving to Raw, which they absolutely should be doing, by the way. But maybe I'm not as optimistic as you, mostly because I've had my heart broken when it comes to LA Knight pushes for the last like 3 years at this point. And at this point, fool me once, fool me twice, shame on me, fool me 3 times. Now at this point, I'm going to start blaming WWE. I'm pretty sure I said that analogy wrong, but like, I think you get what I'm trying to say. I love the Damian Priest and Ron unaliving segment. I had a hard time getting used to a babyface Damian Priest for a while, but the way that he calmed Truth was super cool. It was cool. And you can already start to see that they're already putting R-Truth, Ron Killings somewhere else that isn't the John Cena main event segment, because I don't think that WWE and Triple H want to book R-Truth, Ron Killings into the main event scene because he was never part of the main event plans. But you can be a lot more dynamic and shift things to the side and diagonally a little bit more in the mid card with guys like Aleister Black and Damian Priest, and you can find logical places to put in R-Truth, and I think that this is a good one. Sami Zayn's loss to Randy Orton kind of ruins King of the Ring for me. I don't believe that they'll run it back between Randy Orton and John Cena, which means the winner of Jay/Cody is the likely winner. It makes the final anticlimactic, even if the match will be a banger either way. Blake, I think it gets spoiled even further than that because I don't really see it being Randy Orton versus Jey Uso. I think to me, it's clear as day that they want to do Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton here. We've already had Randy Orton say numerous times to Cody Rhodes, I want a chance at John Cena even if I have to go through you. They're already setting this up. Randy Orton and Jey Uso, that's unappealing. Like, I don't think anybody wants to see that. Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, goddamn, that is a match that people have been wanting to see for a long ass time at this point. So not only did Sami Zayn's loss to you ruin that it's going to be Jey or Cody to win, but I think it ruined that Cody's going to beat Jey and probably Cody's going to win the King of the Ring and go off to face John Cena at SummerSlam like we've all been expecting. What the hell was that Aleister Black segment? They brought out his full entrance just for him to not even get into the ring before Kit Wilson got attacked by Ron Killings. They could have just had a segment where Ron Killings comes out to yells at Cena. Yes, but the point of this was to set up a feud between Ron Killings and Aleister Black. That literally is the whole reason why this exists. It exists so that we can remove Ron Killings from the main event scene, a place that he was never slated to be, so that Triple H can go off and do the thing that he obviously wants to do, which is Cody Rhodes versus John Cena again, without R-Truth messing all of this up, and you can now do something with Truth and Aleister Black. And if you don't have Aleister Black do his entrance, do all of his theatrics, then, well, you can't really actually connect the dots between those two. Reading the comments on this post, it seems like no one is interested in the Solo v Jacob storyline going on. Are these, quote, tribal chief type storylines getting stale, or is there just no interest from either of the fans or the locker room to go after the men's US title belt? That's an interesting point. I don't know that this thread of hot takes is necessarily like a complete like hotbed of what people think positively or negatively, maybe, but he's onto something. Very few people wrote in about Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa, even though that was a top of the hour segment that is usually slotted for things that WWE wants us to care about. And And maybe it isn't that we don't care about Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. Maybe it just got overshadowed over one of the biggest promos that WWE has done in the past decade with John Cena's homage to the pipe bomb. I am down for Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa. This is one of the more organic storylines that I'm behind, but yeah, it got completely overshadowed this episode for sure. And we do talk a lot about how lackluster the Intercontinental Championship reign has been for Dominic Mysterio, but very few of us talk about how lackluster it's been with the US title and Jacob Fatu. It's been about as bad. This match was good, but WTF was that ending? Did someone forget their spot? I think they did. I think there was a moment where they forgot their choreography. Alexa Bliss went to the top rope much earlier in the match than she was supposed to. I thought that the match was fine, but I was definitely expecting it to be better. Shout out to Asuka for winning. I think Asuka might actually win the whole damn thing and go off to face Io Sky at SummerSlam now. It was such a missed opportunity having Cody go out there and say absolutely nothing. He was in the ring with 3 of the top babyfaces in the company, but yet nothing. Disappointing. I agree. If I'm somebody that paid money to see Cody Rhodes or hear what Cody Rhodes had to say and they advertise him and he literally said nothing, I would have been really, really bummed out. I would have felt a little bit scammed, honestly. But yeah, man, Cody Rhodes having interactions with all of these names that he himself has personal connections to, and he got to say nothing? That's ass. I did not like that. That might have been the greatest John Cena promo of his entire career. Talking about wrestlers from different companies, the pipe bomb references, etc. This promo took Cena's heel run to a whole new level and made it 10 times better. Completely mind-blowing and insane. So we've already kind of talked ad nauseum about John Cena's pipe bomb 2.0, but we haven't talked about the fact that he mentioned Nick Nemeth, formerly Dolph Ziggler, Claudio Castagnoli, formerly Cesaro, and Matt Cardona, formerly Zack Ryder. Funny enough, those are all names that a lot of people blame John Cena for not really being able to get over in the company. A lot of people think that they got buried by John Cena, especially Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder definitely got buried by John Cena. You can seriously tell that Triple H did not want R-Truth back. They built up this whole match just to have it go not even 10 minutes, with the majority of it happening over commercials. The Cena pipe bomb was great, but they could have gave this match at least a little more. I don't know that this match could have done much more than it did. I don't think that either of these guys, one that's north of 50, one that's pushing 50, were ever going to particularly put on a fantastic match. I personally feel like they use Ron Killings here in the best way possible as a nostalgic catalyst to set up a homage to one of the most nostalgic things that you could pay an homage to, the CM Punk pipe bomb. But yeah, I agree. There is clearly no intention to have R-Truth in the main event scene at all whatsoever. Triple H is so clearly trying to pivot out of R-Truth from the main event scene as quickly as possible so that he can steer the ship exactly where he was planning on steering it when he planned on having R-Truth not re-signing with the WWE. It's been said 1,000 times, but Triple H really is not good at booking the Money in the Bank winners. The failed cash-in tease is something that we saw with both Priest and Tiffany for so many months, and now it seems like we're getting the exact same thing with Naomi. Hopefully this doesn't drag out for too long. So that's what I'm saying. I said it earlier. I hope it doesn't drag out anymore because it's clear that this is what they're going to do with Naomi, a bunch of fake failed cash-ins once again that will make her look stupid. So that's why I'm just hoping that she cashes in during the last woman standing so that we don't have to deal with this, because you're right. Triple H just doesn't know how to do out of sight, out of mind. Like, just let the Money in the Bank briefcase just breathe. Yeah, right? We don't need to see it every single week as a threat. Like, just stop, man. Like, clearly no one has liked this for the past 3 years. Your execution at the end is great, but we can have the execution without all of the face plants along the way. Jacob and Solo, yes, and Solo have higher ceilings than Jay. Depends what you mean. I think in terms of their quality of storytelling, I think that they absolutely both have higher ceilings, but in terms of moving merch, I don't think Solo does, but Jacob Fatu might. Listen, Yeet merch might not be important to you, but at the end of the day, it's important to the WWE, and that's who they're going to push. But in terms of like quality work, I think you're right. I think that both Solo and Jacob have a higher ceiling than Jay. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching today's Hot Takes. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Goodbye. Get out of here.